what do you see as highlights of lesson learned in automation, the way we do things, any innovation that you see that's really outstanding, and the follow-up of that is what do you see in the horizon of the next few years in terms of where we go with test automation?
Oh, I'm so bad at predictions. I couldn't have predicted where we are today.
Okay.
Sitting where 10 years ago, I would never have been able to look forward to 2012 and say that we would be at this point where it's pretty much taken for granted in most organizations that I walk into today that they have to get to a point where they've got automated regression tests. Whereas 10 years ago, we were still having the ROI discussions of, oh, does it make sense to automate this test or should we keep it manual? Because that return on investment equation was so different before we tried to release every 2 weeks or every month. So in terms of where we are now in lessons learned, I think one of the biggest lessons learned is one that organizations keep learning over and over again. So right now as we speak, I'm sure that somebody is having a meeting about this very thing and identifying this as a lesson learned to take forward into their next release. And that is that if we rely exclusively on end-to-end automation through a GUI, it's going to be fragile, it's going to run slow, it's going to be painful, and ultimately it's going to cost us much more than we can afford. It's not that it's not worth it, it's that we just can't work that way. And so I think it was Mike Cohn who articulated the testing triangle, where the GUI tests are like the fats and oils all the way at the top, or the testing pyramid, sort of like a food pyramid. The GUI tests, they have to be there because we do need full stack automation, but they're just a tiny percentage, and an awful lot of the tests that we have need to be bypassing that GUI. So, and partial stack integration tests and a heavy reliance on the unit tests.
Right, so unit testing at the API level.
Exactly, yeah.
And then the GUI portion is like the last layer of validation on top.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and in order to make that work, that also means that there have to be changes in the way that organizations approach their software development, because that approach doesn't work if the organization is putting all the logic at the GUI layer. So if they're not practicing good software engineering techniques, we can't approach testing that way because it's too risky, because we're going to be bypassing an awful lot of the important logic.
Right, so the lesson learned there is good automation start with good software design and and design for testability and everything, so that you can deliver different automation at different stack,
Yeah.
Okay, very good. What else do you think is happening
in automation? Well, I'm so excited about just the number of tools that are available now. And I know that you guys have Test Architect, and Hans Buwalda's work went into that. His work on keywords has been very inspirational for an awful lot of the tools that have come out. So a lot of the open source tools that I work with these days.
Selenium,
Well, I see Selenium as a driver, and I'm thinking now more about frameworks like two that I work with a lot are Cucumber and Robot Framework. And both Cucumber and Robot Framework allow you to express tests in English. And I know that that's something that Hans has been talking about for a lot of years. But the power of being able to have automation that actually is written essentially in English, or for that matter, any other natural human language, because the tools all support multiple character sets, and so it doesn't have to be English. If you're working, I know a team in China that is writing their acceptance tests in Chinese. And so the fact that we can be writing the automated acceptance tests in the language that works for people is so exciting to me. That really has only been feasible. I mean, there have been tools that have kind of let you do that, but the tools and the support and the community support around that, that's really only come out in, I would say, the last 5 to 7 years.
That's kind of cool because it's analogous to like SQL, or SQL database, right? And I think the term for that is domain-specific language or testing-specific language, and I didn't think about it that way until really it's come from one of Kemp's students when we asking him to just take the tool and do some studying and teaching in the class, and he just saying that this is domain specific language. Saying, oh, you're right, that's what it is. So I think that's a pretty cool concept. It's another layer on top of the scripting, which you still need to have that anyway. But it's another good layer to build on top of that.